Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. There's even a brand new Brigadier General tier where you can get a shout out on a Commander's Quarters episode that's dedicated to you. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I'm doing a little thought experiment that I'm calling What If Magic Met Marvel? And thank you, Eddie, for that name. And if you don't like the name or this episode or anything else on this channel, as always, make sure you blame Eddie. Regardless, with Universes Beyond being a thing, a crossover like this one is definitely something that could potentially happen in the future. So if Wizards were to do a set on, say, the Avengers, what kinds of cards would we see in that set? What characters from the Avengers would be showing up on cards, and what would those cards do? Now, a quick disclaimer before we jump into this episode. I have absolutely no insider information as to whether Wizards will ever do an Avengers set or whatnot. So, no, these are not actual spoilers, these are custom cards that I've created just for fun. So with all that said, let's jump into it. First up, of course, Tony Stark's gotta be in here somewhere, so we've got the Invincible Iron Man. The Invincible Iron Man is a 4/4 human with flying that costs 2 blue-red. Yeah, when I was thinking of Tony Stark and Iron Man, I was definitely thinking, is it with that kind of high level of intelligence, but also that kind of wild card mentality? Regardless, it has pay X blue-red and tap, the Invincible Iron Man deals X damage to any target. If X is 10 or more, the Invincible Iron Man deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of targets instead, and draw half X cards rounded down. So, early on in the game, you can utilize the Invincible Iron Man to ping down certain targets. You might have enough mana to take down a small creature, or to ping a planeswalker, or, you can just ping a player to the face if you really want to. But obviously, the goal is going to be to generate enough mana to get to 10 or more for that X. So it's going to cost you 12 mana total, but once you get to that point, you're going to be getting a ton of value out of this commander. For example, let's just say that you put 10 mana into that X, so again, that's 12 mana in total with that blue and red. Because you hit that 10 or more, you get to deal double that amount of damage, so 20 damage, and now you can divide it as you choose among any number of targets. So you can pick and choose which creatures or planeswalkers on the board that you want to wipe out. Or, you can just ping some opponents to the face for a lot too. Regardless, on top of that, you're also going to be generating card advantage. So again, because you paid 10 mana into that X, you draw half that much, which would be 5. So yeah, pinging down a lot of things on top of drawing a ton of cards, yeah, you're going to want to get to a lot of mana with this. So this type of commander could definitely utilize a mass ritual spell like a Mana Geyser, or a mass treasure creator like Brass's Bounty, or just a ton of mana rocks and ways to untap them. If you've got a lot of mana rocks in play and you cast a dramatic reversal, you're going to have a lot of fun with this commander, pinging pretty much everything down, including your opponents, and drawing a ton of cards. So yeah, this is my take on Tony Stark with the Invincible Iron Man, and I hope you enjoyed it, but now it's time to move on to our next character from the Avengers. And that, of course, would be my take on Bruce Banner with the Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk is an 8/8 indestructible human mutant for, wait for it, red, 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 green, green, green. So yeah, quite a restrictive casting cost, but again, an 8/8 for 6 mana, that's a really good rate. Especially one that's indestructible, and on top of that, of course, the Incredible Hulk has Enrage. Because your opponents are definitely not going to want to make him angry. His Enrage trigger is, whenever he's dealt damage, choose a kind of counter at random that the Incredible Hulk doesn't have on it from among Death Touch, Double Strike, Hexproof, Menace, Trample, and Vigilance. Put a counter of that kind on the Incredible Hulk. So the more times that the Incredible Hulk is dealt damage, the more of those counters you're getting, and the more unstoppable a force it becomes. So though your opponents definitely don't want to make the Incredible Hulk angry, you very much do. And of course, the Incredible Hulk can essentially take any amount of damage because it's indestructible. So have fun just actually, poking the bear and pinging him with some effects or some red board wipes, and yeah, building up those counters to make it more and more unstoppable. I mean, just picture having a commander that's an 8/8 indestructible, death-touching, double-strike, hexproof, menace, trample, vigilant Hulk. Yeah, your opponents aren't going to survive very long when you've got that on the field. And good luck dealing with it the second that this gets hexproof because, again, hexproof and indestructible together are just a nasty combo. And of course, so is double strike, death touch, trample, and vigilance, so best of luck. I really like how this one turned out, how it just showcases how unstoppable of a force this commander can be, and yeah, how you don't want to make it angry. Or again, I guess you do, your opponents don't. I think Hulk is very much a Gruul commander, and that can be just summed up with 2 words: Hulk smash. Regardless, next up we've got to talk about Steve Rogers, better known as Captain America. Captain America is a 5/5 human soldier for 2 blue, red, white. Or should I say red, white, and blue, because, you know, America. Get it? Regardless, Captain America cares about teamwork and working together. It has Battalion. Whenever Captain America and at least 2 other creatures attack, creatures you control gain double strike, indestructible, and trample until end of turn. So, Captain America helps protect his allies in combat with that indestructibility. When Cap's there, you don't have to worry about your team being safe when you swing out. And on top of that, thanks to Cap, your team is gonna hit even harder and help push damage through. Giving your creatures double strike helps them hit twice as hard, and that trample is gonna help them get through your enemy's lines. So again, the Captain America card that I envision is about fighting together with other creatures as a single force. You know, kind of like the Avengers-ish, except, you know, when they run off and do their own things. Anyways, next up we've got none other than the God of Thunder with Thor Odinson. Thor is a 7/3 god with first strike and trample that costs 1 red, red, white, white. So while Thor does have quite a bit of power, ironically, which I just saw right now, Thor could get killed by a lightning bolt, which is, again, kind of ironic and kind of funny. Thor is very much focused on attacking and not too much on defending. And to illustrate that, he has, whenever Thor Odinson deals combat damage to an opponent for the first time each turn, put a ++1 counter on each creature you control, then untap all creatures you control after this phase, the original combat phase. So when you swing with Thor, if you get even 1 point of damage through, you are growing all of your creatures, most likely before those other creatures are actually dealing damage even because again of that first strike, and you also get an extra combat phase. So Thor can definitely rally and inspire the troops and keep the pressure on your opponents swinging relentlessly. You grow your team to hit for even more, and then you get to swing again to double up the amount of damage you're essentially putting out with your creatures. So obviously this commander would work really well with other creatures that have attack triggers or combat damage triggers too. The more benefits you can get in combat and the more times that you can swing, the better. But while it's hard to kill Thor in combat, again, it's not too hard to kill him outside of combat because of that 3 toughness, so look out for that. Again, I did not realize the irony of a lightning bolt being able to kill Thor, but yeah, that's pretty funny. So, Thor, look out for lightning bolts, please. Next up though, of course, since we talked about Thor, we've got to talk about Loki, God of Mischief. Loki is a 3/6 god for 2 blue, blue, black, black. Loki just screams Dimir to me and just kind of exudes what Dimir is all about. Loki is quite sneaky and mischievous, and Loki also likes to have others do his dirty work for him. So this commander has discard 4 cards, gain control of target spell, you may choose new targets for it. So though that's a pretty high cost, having to discard 4 cards, you get a big payoff for that. If an opponent casts an incredible spell and it's worth discarding 4 cards, it's just yours now. And you didn't even have to pay to cast it. Keep in mind that if that spell is a permanent, you just gain control of it. So if it's an enchantment, artifact, creature, planeswalker, whatever, you just get it now. And speaking of gaining control of creatures, the other part of Loki is quite brutal too. It says whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes the target of a spell or ability you control, gain control of that creature for as long as you control Loki, God of Mischief. So whenever you start targeting your opponent's creatures, they just become yours for as long as Loki stays in play. And obviously this effect works really well with Loki's ability to steal spells and change the targets for them. So someone might very well cast a targeting spell that you just take and then use to take one of their creatures. Obviously with a deck built around this commander, you'd want a lot of spells and abilities that target creatures. And of course, in order to utilize that first part, you're going to need to be able to draw an incredible amount of cards with this deck to keep 4 cards up whenever you need them. So a lot of targeting spells and card draw, and a lot of fun for you, and maybe not as much fun for your opponents. But again, as the God of Mischief, I don't think Loki cares about your opponents having fun as long as you are. But speaking of fun though, let's talk about another commander that's quite different with the Black Widow. The Black Widow is a 3/3 human rogue for 1 red, white, black. As long as the Black Widow is equipped, it has Double Strike and Death Touch. Natasha is an expert spy and tactician. Oh, and she's a master martial artist that also happens to have mastered a ton of different weaponry. So when she's equipped, she's even deadlier with that Double Strike and Death Touch. And each of those are going to come in really handy with what's next. Because she has, whenever she deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-land permanent that player controls. Death Touch and Double Strike make her really hard to block, but if your opponents don't block her, well, they're gonna be in trouble. Again, if she gets through, that's gonna be 2 hits to an opponent thanks to that Double Strike and 2 triggers, meaning you get to destroy 2 target non-land permanents that player controls. So yeah, that can be incredibly brutal, and you can easily set that opponent back really far. Also, keep in mind that when you are equipping the Black Widow, you're making her even deadlier with that equipment. Maybe you've got something that can give her trample and grows her power so you can get damage through more easily. Or maybe you've got something that gives her protection or makes her unblockable so you can pretty much guarantee you're getting damage through. Regardless, with just a single combat step, the Black Widow can sabotage your opponent's plans. And of course, if you've got ways to get extra combats with something like, Thor Odin's son, well, your opponents are going to be in big trouble. But next up, let's move on to another 3-color commander with Hawkeye, Expert Marksman. Clint Barton, better known as Hawkeye, is a 2/3 human archer for red, green, white. Hawkeye has, at the beginning of the end step, if 5 or more creatures died this turn, put a Death Touch counter on Hawkeye, Expert Marksman. Hawkeye also has, whenever a creature dies, untap Hawkeye, Expert Marksman, and tap Hawkeye, Expert Marksman deals 1 damage to any target. So Hawkeye at first can take out a ton of tiny targets. And I dare you to try to say that 10 times fast. Regardless, if Hawkeye takes out enough tiny targets on a turn, then it becomes incredibly deadly to basically anything. Because once Hawkeye has Death Touch, well, your opponents are gonna be in big trouble. With these poison-tipped arrows, let's just call them that, Hawkeye can just take out creature after creature after creature with his bow and arrow. Death Touch on a pinger that untaps? Yeah, that's pretty deadly. Now, of course, there are other ways to take out 5 creatures in a single turn, and there's other ways to get Death Touch on this, so make sure you're looking out for those cards as well. Regardless, now it's time for us to move on to the final commander for today with Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury is a 4/5 human ally that costs white, blue, black, red, green, or in other words, Wooburg. He very simply has, at the beginning of each upkeep, you may search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put in your hand, then shuffle. And yes, if you played this commander, you would be required to, every single time, yell, Avengers, assemble! Anyways, regardless, this commander is all about getting the team together. Turn after turn after turn, you are adding legendary creature after legendary creature into your roster. Okay, by roster, I mean hand. You still have to actually cast them, but yeah, you can get all your legendary creatures together to take out your opponents. And if Nick Fury sticks around for even just 1 or 2 trips around the table, that is an absurd amount of value, and your opponents are going to be in big trouble. Because, yeah, just in case you missed it when I read it the first time, this is at the beginning of each upkeep, which includes your opponents. So, even on your opponent's turns, they can see how in trouble they are when you just reveal, a legendary creature that's perfect for the situation that you're in. And they know that creature is going to be coming down next turn to deal with them. So yeah, Nick Fury is all about assembling the Avengers, and you can definitely do that with this commander. Regardless, now this episode is coming to a close, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So, let me know what you think what would happen if Magic met Marvel. What kinds of cards would we be seeing? Do you think the characters lined up with their cards, or what changes would you make to them, or what other characters do you think we would see in that kind of a set? So yeah, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, and of course, as always, Avengers, assemble! Thanks again, and have a good one.